All right. Well, I would love to welcome all of our panelists to our event tonight. To start off, I just want to do a quick round of introductions with our 5 amazing panelists. Wendy Foster, how about we start with you? Could you just introduce your role and a new habit you picked up since COVID started, just as a quick icebreaker for everyone?
Yeah, for sure. So Wendy, I'm Director of Engineering and Data Science at Shopify for our Insights product group. I shared something that I'm not going to share with all of you backstage for one of my COVID habits, but in my breakout, I maybe will share with the smaller group. But I have 2 geeky things that I did start doing over lockdown. One is I actually started learning React. So that is a very productive thing I did. And the second thing that I did that's a little bit weird is that I started nature journaling. But because we were in lockdown, I did it all through my window, looking out my balcony at the spiders that live there and the weird balcony weeds that are growing on my balcony. So that's what I did.
Awesome. I love picking up new skills. All right. Shingai Manjengwa, would you mind introducing your role and a new hobby that you picked up since lockdown?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Shingai, and I wear 2 hats. I'm a technical education specialist at the Vector Institute, and I'm also the founder and CEO of Fireside Analytics. And hobbies since the lockdown is video conferencing. You guys need to try it. I do it all the time, all day, every day. It means I don't even need to go into the office. I can just do it straight from home, log onto the screen, speak to hundreds of people, meetings all day. It's just been the most incredible hobby to pick up.
I think we've all definitely picked up that hobby, very universal here. Now I'd like to introduce Nadine Boucher. Would you mind introducing yourself and a new hobby?
Yes. Hello, everybody. My name is Nadine Boucher. I'm a customer engineer at Google, specializing in data and analytic AI machine learning. So really what it means, customer engineer, is that I'm a technical resources meeting with customer, to find out which Google capability can meet their needs. And a new hobbies that I've developed during COVID is basically taking walks or jogging every day with my 2 daughters.
You have it, you picked up. All right. Kanchana, would you mind introducing yourself, please?
Sure. I feel like my COVID hobby looks so lame in comparison to all these. But anyway, hi, I'm Kanchana. I'm the Director of Data Science at Kinaxis. So we are a machine learning AI solution for all things supply chain, all things retail, all things CPG, and many other verticals. The fun thing that I picked up during COVID is I actually didn't pick up anything. I actually got back to work at the start of COVID from my mat leave. So I have a 20-month-old at home. Back then was a 1-year-old. So I think every time that I was not in a meeting, I was with her. So I don't think I got a chance to pick up anything new. But I think it's been a good use of my time, just spending time with her.
Very nice. And we have one more panelist, Eva Wong, who has a few technical difficulties. So when she can rejoin, she'll introduce herself. And just for all of you, my name is Brooke Wenig. I lead the machine learning practice team at Databricks, and I will be your moderator. So I wanted to kick off the session with a question for all of you. What is one thing that you wish you had known earlier in your career? What is something that you wish other people had told you, or a piece of advice? No particular order. Feel free to jump in.
So I'll start with open source. So in my first job, I got very good at a proprietary software that we were using. And when I say I got very good at it, I mean I could make a cup of coffee with the software. The trouble is, as soon as I left that organization, no one had ever heard of the software that I was talking about. So early on in my career, if I had picked up, something just a little bit more open source or, more broadly used, I think that would have dramatically changed my skill set. I mean, you learn from everything that you do, but if anybody's watching and you're early on in your career, keep an eye out on open source, open source, open source, open source.
So maybe I can continue. So I think it's a very good question because I think when you start your career, well, when I started my career, I knew that there were so many things I didn't know. So that, and even now, it's, I don't know which one thing I wish I would have known. But I think what's important is just that like you're that to be aware that basically nobody knows everything all the time and stuff like that, and we just have to keep learning and keep wanting to learn and be aware of everything that is I mean, regardless, how many years you will be in your career, you never stop learning, and you just have to be curious about it and have that desire to learn.
Yeah. And I want to bounce a little bit off that, like Nadine, because I think mine is like pretty related, and that is that I wish I had known early on in my career that not only is it okay to take risks, but it's okay to fail. Right. And in fact, like our biggest and deepest like learnings come from those risks and those failures that we carry over into like deeper successes for our next like projects and endeavors. Like was so scared to like fail and be wrong, like really early on in my career. And now I kind of welcome it. So that was a big change.
And I agree with all that. I think I'm with all that. And I think one thing to add on that I learned was just about keeping that end goal in mind in terms of what business problem are we solving, what should be achieved. Because often when you're a PhD, like I was, it's like you're focused on doing the next great thing, the coolest thing, the most technically challenging thing. But often when you come to work, that's really not the case. Like you should choose the simplest, most easy solution that can actually get you to the end goal faster, right? So that's, I think, a good lesson very early on. So.
Excellent. I completely agree with all of those, especially to your point, Shinga, about open source tech. I'm wearing the Delta Lake logo right here for the Open Source Lakehouse project. All right, next thing that I want to ask all of you, since one of the key things that unites all of us and why we're all here at this conference is data science. So if you could share just how you got into data science and what's keeping you in this field. Why are you interested in the field of data science?
I guess I can go first because I went last time, so I deserve to go first. I think, frankly, when I got into data science, it was not science was not a word. It was, when I was in my PhD, it was more of, I was interested in data always and learning patterns. So I got into data mining. That was the thing. And then, later on started being called machine learning. And then you learned that, you have to scale it. And that's was the progress. And then suddenly, by the time I was working in the field very early on, data science became the thing. And everybody started calling me a data scientist. And I didn't know what that meant. So that's how I got into it. Like, I didn't get into data science as much as I just got into an area where I wanted to apply data mining and machine learning algorithms. So that's where I started. What keeps me here is, I think right now I'm at a point where I'm not actively coding as much as I would like. What keeps me interested is that I'm able to build some of these products, but be able to show some direction in these projects and kind of work with other smart people to figure out what can we build that will make the end user life easier through automation and through machine learning. And I think that's what drives me, because a lot of the stuff that we build is about, it's almost like taking away the crappiest part of somebody's job to say, okay, we can automate this so that you can focus your time on more interesting, useful things where you'll be better served, right? So I think that's what keeps me here, because that's what's fascinating for me, to make our own lives easier in some way.
So I can go next. I stumbled into the profession because I was avoiding a career in finance. And essentially, I was about to graduate, and an opportunity came up with one of the big banks and a financial institution. And my family was very encouraging of that career path. So I just went out and emailed as many people as I could to get a job that wasn't in finance. And one of the first companies to respond and set up an interview and all of that, I wasn't even entirely sure exactly what they did. But eventually when I joined, they were doing analytics. So analyzing point of sale data on behalf of retailers and manufacturers, and providing insights to those clients. So that's how I started. And then my undergrad was a business degree, so I also not very traditional. And then on the job, I picked up SQL. And then along the line, as it became my career, as people started calling me a data scientist and they started calling the field analytics, I picked up more programming languages, first R at business school, and then now Python more and more with my work. So that's kind of the journey. What keeps me here is that I've been able to carve out a space for myself. So there are very different types of data scientists. Some people are more on the engineering side, some people on the more PhD research side, and some people are more on the analytics side. So being able to carve out a space for me that's data science and education with this made up role of technical education specialist, it's not a thing, it was made up. That's very exciting to me because we get to do cool stuff by merging all these different disciplines together and creating something new.
Okay, so in my side, I have a degree in computer science, so I'm coming more from the IT side, and I kind of naturally were aligned more on the analytics side of the solution engineering type of needs for the customer, because I did a lot of kind of project where it was analytic related. So when the company started aligning themselves into some pillar or stuff like that, I was aligned with the analytic, and what keeps me here, it's because it's very interesting, right? I mean, now every industry at all level, even new industry, I mean, they are AI enabled, or they are looking at data to really make real smart decision. And now it's all about automation as well, and it's very interesting. And now there is really, I mean, it's getting more and more mature, and there's that need as well to kind of combine the enterprise knowledge with the research knowledge to really like make it work in the real life. So it's just very interesting.
Yeah, and for myself was like a pretty twisty like road. I started out in like humanities, and I think for like as the same with like some other folks on like panel, it was before there was real field called like data science, and actually during a time within like computer science where AI was considered like a little bit flaky. They had computational intelligence, artificial intelligence was kind of like sidelined. And like at that point, when I was in grad school, there was something called humanities computing. And it's where a lot of like the kind of like, I'll call it like prototypical like NLP development, because humanities like really like welcomed being able to look at like textual artifacts like differently. So that's when I first started really getting interested in like kind of repathing like my career. And that was like heavily, as I said, on like NLP, but also like different and unique ways to like visualize like your data. So that led me into like information visualization like roles, which converted at some point in my career into a data science role, and then like that technical like path. And I stay in the field for a couple of reasons. The first is like the challenge, and like the complexity of like the problems is incredibly like appealing to me. But also I think our field is really uniquely positioned to do good for the world. So finding ways within work and outside of work to contribute through this discipline back to good things is very compelling to me.
One thing I really like about data science is that everybody has a very unique background getting into the field. So all of us on the phone have very different degrees, very different experiences. And now most of you are directors, entrepreneurs, leaders. What advice do you have for people going down that route? So I know a lot of data scientists, they're trying to figure out, should I stay as an IC and build models, or should I go into management? What advice do you have for people trying to make that decision?
So it's the most popular question that I get asked all the time. And I have a couple of suggestions. I think the first one is it's not either or. They're not necessarily mutually exclusive. I think you can carve out your space. I cannot emphasize that enough, is that there's room for all of us with all our varied backgrounds in this sector. And I love Wendy's example of coming from a humanities background, because typically some of those folks are the ones that say, oh, I don't know if I can. You can. You just need to pick up maybe some other skills. And then the combination of all of that will set you on a path where you carve out your space, figure out the thing that you want to do that's going to add. And the other piece I would add to that is whatever makes you special is the thing that we're looking for in the industry, right? So I always use language processing is a very English-centric field of study right now, and that's just by virtue of some of the folks that are building the models. So Canada is a bilingual country and such a diverse place. We have people who speak all kinds of languages. So if you're sitting there and wondering, I don't know what I'm going to contribute, well, even if you speak just another language that's not particularly well known, bring that to the table, because just the way you feel about it, the way you see the world, your perspective is unique, and that's going to advance the field. So that's my 2 cents to you, is carve out your space and be deliberate about it. And then the second thing is, don't hold back. Whatever makes you show is what's going to contribute to the field.
Yeah, that's a very good answer. And actually, what I will add, I mean, it depends, right? It always depends on what you like, what you want, and there's definitely no right answer into if you should be in management, sales, or technical. I think, well, for myself, I think to diversify and try new things. I love it. I like it. When I was more in my younger years, I was like in services doing technical work and stuff like that, and it was a small company, so we had a rotation at one point that they put in place, that you were in services, then you will spend 6 months in sales, and then back into kind of services sales, and I love it because it really like make you think differently, approach things differently, and same thing in management. But I think to be in management, and usually you need to have kind of the technical background, and I think it's also necessary to get the respect and be a good leader for your team. But at the end of the day, what's important is just that you diversify, and also, like, I don't know if everybody heard about this, but early in my career, they kind of also teach about having the T-shape, background or knowledge. So you try to be as horizontal as possible, so know as much as possible about everything, but also you go deep in some special area, potentially, data science, stuff like that. So I think it's a thing that I remember from early, and that still applied throughout my career.
And I think to add there too, at most organizations I've worked at, the emphasis on building your T is part of our career architectures as well at a lot of orgs. But I think, I don't know if I've seen this as fluidly in the data science field, but definitely within engineering, that move sideways and back and forth in between management. So engineering management and individual contributor work is very, very common, right? There's not particularly a mandate that if you want to develop skills, especially in how you grow and build teams, means that you can never contribute as an individual anymore. Often through different stages of our careers, we will make that shift back and forth, and it depends on where you want to start. I think really developing out different skill sets, being a technical lead on a team, and technical leadership also does include mentorship, maybe not to the extent that a human management role would require from somebody, but they're very analogous skill sets, so easy to move back and forth.
Yeah, I think I tend to agree as well. I think it is a choice, and you can try both and see which one you prefer. But I think the only piece of advice or something for me would be, when I took up management, that there is a lot of non-technical work you have to do, which you are constantly doing. You have to accept that. I don't mind that at all, because I really enjoy mentoring my team. I enjoy doing things for my team. I think it's important that somebody has to do it, and I really enjoy doing it. It still gives me a chance to be part of the technical leadership and the technical view, because my background is entirely in data science, and I'm a very technical person in my background. So it still gives me that chance. But I think that there is a shift. It's not that you can do your own technical project and still manage a team. That doesn't happen. But I think it's just the ratio of how much of what you want to do. Be super technical and then have some mentorship piece, which is the technical leadership, which is the individual contributor, or do you not mind a lot of management and making sure that, they get people reporting into you, make sure that they are happy, they can do the technical work well, while you still have a lot of technical leadership, but maybe not as much hands-on technical work. So I think that's the difference. And sometimes you have to try it out. Like for me, it was a natural choice. I just enjoyed mentoring and managing very early on, and I kind of took that path naturally. But I've seen people try one and say, no, I want to be on the individual contributor track, or do the other way around, where they're like, no, I feel like I need to have people reporting and I need to do that management thing. So I've seen both, but know that it's not always equal. There are clear differences. Yeah.
So I think the key theme from today was just have a diversity of experiences to figure out what it is to focus on. I want to end the session by asking each of you one last question. What keeps you up at night? Or conversely, what wakes you up early in the morning? What things are on your mind keeping you up late at night?
I can start like quickly because it's typically like my teams. Like this is like, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, like when I was an individual like contributor, especially like starting out in a lot of like startups, like your world is like very, very high stress, right? And oftentimes if you don't have like good workflow like management or people like managing that well for you when you're an individual like contributor, it's really easy to overwhelm yourself with like low value output, become really demotivated, and not like connected to your work and not bringing like the highest value of your work like back to your org. And so I am honestly like, I think a lot about my team's motivation levels. If we're managing like the work that they're like engaging in ways that like, reduce as much toil for them as like possible, and as well clearly like give like the highest value back to like our organization, but keeping like folks challenged and motivated, which is different from happy. So like motivation to me is like key, and finding out for individuals like what that means to them is crucial to like my team's success.
I couldn't have said that better. I think it's 100% part of what I feel as well in terms of managing a team. You're always looking to declutter their lives. You can take on a bit more, but you want to make sure that they can do the job, right? Because you want to give them the space so that they can be successful, because it kind of multiplies into your own success. So you want to make sure that they're successful. And of course, the other thing, a more personal thing that keeps me up at night is just my work-life balance in terms of making sure that, am I spending enough time with my daughter? Am I giving her am I spending enough time? Like, how do I balance that? It's a constant juggle for me in terms of, there are days when I'm working more and I can't, and then there are days that I'm working less when I can. So it's like constantly making sure that I'm maintaining that balance as well, because I think that's important.
I would say for me, it's the thing that keeps me up at night are pipeline related questions. So in a more micro level pipeline in terms of the work that I'm currently doing, and then just in a more macro level, are we really building like the talent pipelines, etc. And this is in line with the work that I do, right? So in a nutshell, right now, it's about developing course content to teach either practitioners or working professionals artificial intelligence models, to get them to polish up and learn new techniques and be on the cutting edge, even if they graduated from, let's say a computer science degree a few years ago. So that's what the work is. And really the pipeline is interesting to me, and making sure that that pipeline is diverse as well is something that keeps me up at night. What gets me up in the morning is making sure that the programs are all running smoothly. So it kind of speaks to the question that you asked before, and I think we didn't mention it, but the stress of being responsible is a consideration. Some people don't want that stress, and I respect that because the buck does stop with you when you're in that position. So that's what gets me out of bed, is like, we got things to do, and we got people waiting.
And for my side, I think it's, I always need to understand, something. So if there's a situation or a problem that I cannot explain to myself, like I would just keep thinking up to the point that, I understand at least an approach or a way that, I could explain it to myself. And then when, I kind of have the framework of how it could work or how it could be explained, then I can sleep. Otherwise, I just keep thinking, I guess.
Awesome. So it sounds like work is the common theme that keeps us all up at night and different things waking us up in the morning. So I want to thank all of our panelists today for joining us. We're now going to break out into sessions so you can have the chance to ask any of the panelists questions that you're interested in. So when you click on the sessions tab on the left, it will automatically pair you up randomly with one of the panelists. So thank you, everyone, and see you in the breakout sessions.